Hey, party people, it's Adrian, and I just talked to Patty about her experience with open mic poetry in Athens, Georgia. How did you get started writing poetry?
So I started writing poetry at 15 when I was listening to Luis Miguel and Mariah Carey on repeat. My mom got tired of it. She gave me a book of Gustavo Becker's rhymes. He's a Spanish poet from the 18th century. And I read his poetry, and after that I just started first translating lyrics from Luis Miguel, and then I started writing poetry on my own.
So what was your inspiration for writing poetry?
Heartbreak. I had a breakup, and I was very emotional at that time, and I didn't want to bother my friends and my family, so I just started writing.
So what came next?
What came next is I took a creative writing class in high school, my junior year, and I wrote some poems there too. I wrote also a short story. And after that, I had some major upheaval in my life. And I didn't write for a while until I was, I think, 19. And I was going through this string of relationships and that were just chaotic. And then I started writing again. And that's when at one point I decided I wanted to become a writer. And at 22, I went to college and I started to get I was on my path to get my English degree. And I've been writing on and off ever since.
When did you start performing in a spoken word format?
In 2016. In 2016, that was the first time I saw this advertisement for word of mouth in the flagpole, our local Athens entertainment newspaper, whatever. And it was in February of 2016, and I went with a friend. And that first time I performed a poem about my deadbeat baby daddy and a nice Spanish love poem. And ever since, I was going there regularly until I would say 2017, on and off 2018, 2019, and I stopped because I was working 2 jobs. And in 2022, I started again. I go over there every month, almost every month, and I've been to other spoken word open mics here in town.
So why did you want to go talk in front of people?
Because I think it's empowering. I love sharing my story because I feel like a lot of my poetry is storytelling. It's like She Smith from my life. It's like little gossip snips from my life, and I absolutely love doing that. And I also I love going to see the other artists, poets perform, because that's also inspiring to me.
So how do you feel about speaking in front of others and sharing what these poems are about?
It's great. I mean, at first it was a little, I would go in like a little angry is what I've been told. But I think that's just my personality. I'm a very intense person and very emotional, but after a while I made friends in this creative community that's helped me just become not just a better writer, but like a better person. It's a sense of community that I need for not just my creative spirit, but for my mental health too. It's really good, especially like now in this turbulent times that we are living in. It's needed. And with all the disconnection that we do have with modernity and the doom scrolling and we don't meet people in real life much anymore as we did in the past. So going to the open mics is a way to just connect with other people in that community.
So it sounds like you're sharing what you have to say, but you're also enjoying hearing what other people have to say.
Yes, very much
making
so.
connections with them.
Very much so. Very much so.
How do you feel after you've spoken your poem to the crowd?
Relaxed, relieved, but I think that I feel very empowered at the same time. It is nice when I get a compliment, but I don't do it for the validation, but it is nice when somebody says, thank you for reading that poem. I could really relate to it because it was a really rough time in my life. Or sometimes I do poems about my children, and someone will say, yeah, I really needed to hear that as a parent.
Wow.
So it's good.
What are your poems about?
So there used to be a lot about like relationships, but as a poet, I've evolved, and they can be, a lot of them are about my kids. It's also political because I am an immigrant, so I do talk about immigration and what's that been like for me, just being an immigrant in this country. I talk about being bicultural as well, and having to try to appease both cultures and not quite fitting in. I talk about my friendships and community poetry. I think that even I did a poem about like that one time I had to give up chili cheese Fritos.
What?
I know, that was tough. And like just every day.
Why did you have to give them up?
Because my blood pressure was high, and
that's sad.
It is sad.
I guess that's worth a poem.
That is worth a poem.
So here's a question for you.
Right.
When do you decide to write a poem in Spanish versus English?
So with my poetry in English, because even though I am bilingual, but I've been raised here in schooling and all of that, my brain is, the prominent language that I use is English. So those poems come more easily to me. So I have prompts from various places. I have inspiration from various places. In Spanish, I think it happens when I'm very emotional and there is something in something in me that cannot capture that feeling in English. So, and that could be like a negative emotion or a positive emotion. It's just there are some things in Spanish that for me I feel is like warmer, more intense, whereas in English you can't captivate that. I'm not trying to be a hater of English. I love English. I was an English major.
You're an English major?
Yes. Yeah.
And now we finally get to the good part. Patty selected some poems to share with us. What is Tradition Not Kept about?
It's about breaking the generational curse of silence that seems to like be in my family, where children should be seen and not heard, and how I'm breaking that by allowing my children to just be themselves.
So this one is called Tradition Not Kept, and I dedicate this to my children. Tradition not kept. Children should be seen and not heard is one tradition I'll never keep. It would mean invalidating my children's feelings. It would mean for them to have years of therapy trying to find their sense of identity. It would mean to reduce them to shadows who speak when only spoken to. It would mean passing them the torch of a generational curse that makes them question their self-worth over and over again. So everyone can judge me or criticize my parenting all they want. I like my children to not just be seen, but also heard. Even if sometimes it's loud and boisterous, even if sometimes it sounds disrespectful. It's important for their emotional growth, for their confidence, and to break and heal the generational curse where children are silenced.
What is Tourist about?
Tourist is about feeling like a tourist in my homeland and just like being American raised and all of a sudden finding yourself in this country that you were born, but not constantly being in awe and wonder, but just still feeling at home. Like it's just such a complicated feeling.
This next one is called Tourist, and it's about me feeling like a tourist in my homeland of Peru. I didn't go back for 32 years, and it was an interesting experience. Tourist. Being a tourist in my homeland is complicated. I look like I belong depending on where I am. In Lima and Oxapampa, I look like a local, but quickly give myself away the minute I speak. The minute my English prominent brain struggles to find the correct words in Spanish to express myself. And for the most part, people are patient as I pause for a few minutes, as I wait for my mind to find the right noun, verb, conjugation to not sound like an American idiot. And constantly being in awe about everything gives me Alice in Wonderland syndrome. It makes me have a competition in my mind about America and Peru. America always loses, because from the most delicious food and smoothest beer, to the warmth of the people who call me Reina y Amor, to the most beautiful landscapes and sunsets I've seen in my life, I fall in love every single day with my homeland, and grief grows within me each day, knowing I'll have to go back to my American reality where people are detached and distant individuals and food is heavily processed. And I'm always asked, where are you from?
So what is Pirate Party about?
Pirate Party is about how my friend accidentally introduced me to this dude who ended up he was a fixture in my life for years, and it turned out to be he turned out to be a muse for more than 100 pages.
Wow.
All right, so this one's a little sexy, a little funny, and it's inspired of actually one of my friends that's here and somebody else. We won't say who that is. This is called Pirate Party. Sultry July night at a pirate party. Very red Dionysian hair, body made by the gods. She caught his eye from a distance. He wanted her, he craved her, he approached her. Right away, she saw through his toxic fuckboy vibe and said no thanks. And introduced him to me. I was already 3 drinks in, mesmerized by his body, covered in tattoos from shoulders to toes, and his devilish voice, boyish grin. Felt an electric energy between us. Or maybe that was the buzz from my 3rd margarita. He was the sexiest man I've ever seen. I want this bad boy. Within minutes, we assessed each other and flirted. Giddy, I gave him my phone number. And that was the beginning and end of me. And almost 6 years and 100 pages of poetry later, my friend still tells me, I'm sorry I've introduced you to him.
So before we go, Patty, what advice do you want to share?
So my advice for other like creatives that are just like, maybe they suffer from imposter syndrome or they think like their words don't matter. I feel like just get out there and tell your story, however that is. I know that for a while I hid it in the pages of my notebook and journals, and I'm glad I did that. But at the same time, I feel like it was good for me to get out there, because that's how I formed creative community that inspired me and helped me evolve. So that's just my thing. Your words matter, your story matters, and that is what is going to help us bridge our differences together, I think.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Of course.
Well, thanks for watching. Come back soon. Have a good one.